All right, guys, let's get started. Thank you for joining us on this afternoon. We've got a fantastic panel that's going to talk about mobile engagement in 2021, the rise of the super buyer. My name is Ketan, and I take care of global partner marketing at CleverTap. We've got Russell Conrad, who's going to be moderating this panel discussion with fantastic speakers from Workmate, Hungry Hub, and Seekster. Russell, over to you.
All right, great. Thanks, Ketan. Thanks everyone for joining. I want to welcome to the next session in this educational series that we do between Audience IQ and CleverTap. I'm Russ Conrad, the founder of Audience IQ. We're a leading digital marketing and technology agency based here in Bangkok, Thailand. Today, I'm fortunate enough to have three industry leaders join me in what I hope will be a healthy discussion on the changes in business landscape due to, let's say, two main factors that I want to point out today. And I think it's what everyone knows. But first is the effects of the global pandemic and how this has changed the way the consumer purchases, and also how employment and the workplace has also changed. So I want to look at it from those two angles. And then the second one is then the rise of the digital and mobile communication, what we call the super user. So these are two macro factors that are taking place right now. The first, as it relates to global pandemic, we can see and feel the changes. I think everyone sees what's kind of going on around. You can see how your own behavior is changing. For example, this event, this webinar, we're doing more things like this. More companies are doing things like this. So the lockdowns have really enforced this global change. All businesses have been affected. So, whether it's restaurants and hotels, those are the obvious ones that depend on cross-border travel, but also education and retail. And really all industries have been impacted. So the digital first companies, or let's say the companies that have been able to adapt very quickly, have fared better during this period. We also can see the rise in the mobile technology and how that shift towards digital commerce and more digital communications is taking place. It's what we call, again, the rise of the mobile super user. And in Southeast Asia, we can see this in particular. It's really the highest mobile consumption on a daily basis than any other place in the world. So happy to be a part of that, living here in Thailand. We can also see that over the course of this last year, the e-commerce transactions have also increased dramatically. Traffic to all kinds of e-commerce sites has increased, including the obvious ones like Lazada, but also food, right? So like Hungry Hub, Pizza Company, and 1112 Delivery, Food Panda, Grab, all those types of companies have also seen a massive adoption of their platforms. Another major statistics that I want to note out is the percentage of e-commerce that is happening on the mobile device. So it used to be that around 70% of a website's traffic came from the mobile device. That's about 2 years ago. Now we can see that number is closer to 90% or higher if you include app with the mobile web, which you should. So with over 90% of e-commerce taking place on the mobile device, it's really important to have the right tools and techniques to engage with these users on their mobile devices. So we want to understand more about the opportunities that these two macro factors are affecting and how business owners can take advantage of these trends. So let's learn from our great panel members that we have here today. I'm really fortunate to be joined by this group. And I'll introduce them shortly, but it's great to have you all here. And I hope we can engage in an interesting conversation about these changes in the landscape. And really the best way is for you guys to share with us some of the things that you're seeing and how you kind of view your view on the market. So I'm going to kick it off with Hungry Hub. Great. So I first want to take a look at what's happening in the restaurant and food space. For this, I'm gonna open it up to Mr. Sursit, the founder and CEO of Hungry Hub. So Hungry Hub is an online restaurant booking engine that also provides great deals. It's obvious, as you can imagine, how the restaurant industry got hurt in March, because you couldn't go there anymore due to the lockdown. So, Sid, I'd love to understand a little bit more about your business. So how has it been impacted and how did you adapt to this situation, let's say in March and May? Let's start there.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to introduce myself and thanks for having me here today. My name is Sur Sid, or you can call me Sid. Like Russ said, Hungry Hub is a dining dining deal platform. But what we have, the uniqueness is we turn a la carte restaurant into an all-you-can-eat promotion exclusively for people who book a table through us. So that's our unique benefit. So given that our deals are focused around only dine-in, the restaurants being shut down, that impacted us from like basically our revenue down to zero on the very first day of the lockdown. And what is worse is also some of the restaurants that closed has been closed or has shut down permanently. About 10 to 15% didn't come back and open, or some of them are still part of a hotel that is closed, or in a mall or like a tourist focused area that either closed down some branches. So that's definitely one impact. But second is we saw that trend coming in China, right? China was about 2 months ahead of us, and I was fortunately part of an Alibaba program in November, which is just before the COVID, and then they experienced it. So they shared with us what was happening in China, the lockdown happening, and the rise of delivery. So we decided that because most of our restaurant partners have never been engaged in delivery because they were either medium to high end restaurants or buffet restaurants, which never really come into play in the delivery market. And given that we have that customer base because we were providing them with customers on ongoing basis. So we said, given that we are a marketing platform, we are able to drive them some business. Why can't we help them during delivery times? So we tweaked our business a week or two before lockdown. We decided that we were going to open a delivery feature. And within a week, we twisted it around. We don't want to compete with the top guys in delivery. So the way we positioned was set menu deliveries, but a flexible set concept where you can have like a four dishes for 500 baht, or like 7 dishes for 1,000 delivered. So hence your delivery fee comes down, and the restaurants don't have to pay hefty margins on it. So we charge like the same 10% commission we normally charge, which made restaurants open. And we ramped up within 2 months. We ramped up like pre-COVID, we had about 250 restaurant partners for dine-in. During 3 months of COVID, we matched that number only for delivery. So we got up to 250 restaurants sign up and help them with delivery. We were not able to come back to our pre-COVID GMV given that 2 months of launch, but we hit about 30-40% of that number, which helped cover some of our costs and help let restaurants survive through the pandemic. So help them survive by generating some extra revenue for them, maybe not the same as they would have gotten through dine-in, but still beneficial in some amount, and keep our staff like innovating and coming up with new ideas. So we did that during COVID, and it helped us because we got introduced to a lot of new brands, a lot of new customer base who never would have known about us, a lot of media that was basically talking about our quick pivot and our help to the restaurant industry. So I think that was kind of like a CSR play as well, that we are there to just support the ecosystem. So I think we looked at it, and overall we benefited a lot. And now after COVID, our numbers are up 70% higher than pre-COVID already. Yeah.
Wow. So I just wanted that's sort of the follow-on question. So you made this major pivot to be able to offer delivery.
Yeah.
And then when, in June, when things started coming out, how is it today? So let's go from June through till now, November. Do you still have, what is the consumer looking for? How has it changed your business? I mean, do you still have some delivery?
So delivery is a small part of what we do. And because we realized that during that time, we need to build a lot on the system to be able to scale up. And luckily for Thailand, the lockdown has happened only once, and we haven't seen that kind of pattern going in yet, luckily. So given that we see the dine-in market potential is so much more, because right now a lot of hotels that used to serve foreigners or branded, very well-known Michelin star restaurants that used to only attract foreigners now are switching to a local market, and they don't have a strategy. They don't understand the local market. So a lot of them are either reaching out to us or us reaching out to them. So we're getting a very good supply network for dine-in right now. So our team, given the resource we have, we feel like the dine-in is still our strength, and we want to pursue that. But delivery is more like a backup plan or something that we may innovate to improve slowly later on. But right now we are switching gears back to dine-in, and that's what's generating major chunk of our revenue today.
Got it. Great. Well, I mean, what a use case to be able to change like that so quickly. It's very impressive. Great. Sid, thank you so much for sharing. I'll get back to you when we do a round robin at the end. But next I wanted to bring in Sahib from Seekster. So I want to talk a little bit about the home and the sort of the condo owner. You know, they've also been hit quite hard by the pandemic, I guess, looking for ways to save costs. All let's say homeowners and you know, people that are living in the city, you know, now they're staying at home, or they did stay at home during the lockdown, but I think people are staying home more and more. So there's really a shift in sort of like the lifestyle behavior of individuals. So bringing in Seekster and how that kind of brings Seekster into the conversation. So Seekster is an app, and you can tell us a bit more, but that helps both individuals and business owners find a wide range of maintenance services, including things like cleaning, air conditioning, maintenance, and other things. So really serving this market. So really the question for you, Sahib, you know, how have you seen a change in behavior of this group, of this homeowner, either in any direction, and what are you really seeing like over the last 8 months that you can that applies to your business or the market in general?
All right. Hey guys, I'm Saib, the CEO of Seekster, and just as Russ said, we focus on providing services such as cleaning and maintenance to both businesses and the consumer market. So how we were impacted and how we actually made a shift. I'd say in particularly to the B2B market first, I'd say that, you know, because of the lockdown, all of our entire B2B industry was shut down because naturally with the lockdown, all offices, retail stores, you know, all different SMEs were shut. The B2C market was a bit more sensitive here because I think even despite the lockdown, there were a lot of people that actually still needed the services, but there was a change in trend here, which is quite interesting because a lot of people actually lost their jobs. And because of losing their jobs, being home, they actually wanted to, you know, save on some money on not being able to call for such services as well. Now, because we order aircon service, we also provide aircon services, and it was in the midst of this, you know, Songkran or the hottest season of Thailand. That's pretty much inevitable that you need to call a technician. You know, a lot of people back then were also very concerned about having a third person through your door. You know, that was quite sensitive, having elder people or even younger kids, or just having someone that might be prone or exposed to the outside world that could be, you know, impacted by COVID as well. So I think the first thing that we had to do was actually ensure trust, and that's what we stand for, one of our core values. And this is where we invested highly on the entire safeguarding of the new normal that we so-called having our providers go through temperature checks. So deploying thermometers across 2,000 providers, face mask, you know, face shields, and ensuring that all these people are actually, you know, wearing these equipments or having these equipments with them on every job that they go out. So it was mainly about communication and actually showing the customers, both businesses and consumers, that you know, you can trust us while this pandemic is still going on, and we are at the utmost, you know, the safety and safeguard measures at the utmost priority for us as well. So that was how we saw things shift around for especially the consumer market.
Do you see sort of this sharing economy? You know, this is on the supply side of your work, which is a part of the app. Do you see that as a trend that'll continue post-COVID?
Yeah, so I think a a very interesting trend here, especially with the SMEs, is that pre-COVID, we have launched our B2B segment where we offer retail, SMEs, even restaurants, clinics, our cleaning and housekeeping services, hotels for a fact as well. But before this, a lot of people didn't actually see the value of us coming in to reduce their cost, right? So I mean, the big players and the traditional players out there that provide cleaning services to these SMEs, there's only been one option most of the time, which is hiring them for 8 hours a day and paying them a high fees.
Right.
But what Seekster actually values and what we actually provide to different customers, and especially the B2B segment, is you pay for what you need. So you pay as you go. So instead of actually hiring a maid at your storefront for 8 hours or your office for 8 hours, you just actually need her to come in 2 hours a day. So you pay for that much. But on the supply side, how can we actually help them earn more money as well? Because an interesting thing that we've seen post-COVID as well is, I mean, this is something that's at the bottom of every blue collar industry, is that they just want to see the consistency of job, basically revenue, and have healthcare, right? So this is the core of what we are providing to blue collars and the ecosystem we're building around it. And during COVID, we actually use our sharing economy, our technology of actually onboarding more than 180 maids from hotels that were laying off staff. And we actually were able to match them with B2C jobs that gave more than 60% of the workforce revenue of more than 17,000 baht. So compare them to being laid off and then all of a sudden being on our platform and getting the opportunity to earn more than 17,000 baht.
Wow, that's a great story. So I mean, you mentioned the app and your platform. So I'm just going to close off this with technology. I mean, so this is all powered by technology as well, right? So even at this lower level types of jobs, on the supply side, the cleaners, they're able to do this all from their phone and the app. So this is tying in with the rise of the super user. And I'm guessing what your answer is going to be, but tell us more. Even with them, they have no issue using the technology. Is that right?
To say they have no issue, that would be wrong, because I think that's definitely one of our biggest challenge as well, on ensuring that our product, our UX and our UI is wholly designed based on how simple can we make it for these blue collars to actually use the app, and not just use the app for one touch point, but use the app to be able to do the entire flow and make it their everyday app as well, right? So there's a lot of things that go into, like, making sure that there's calendars, check-in, checkouts, and a lot of those different tools that they actually value, apart from just taking up Seekster jobs as well. Because at the end, we don't want to just be that lead generating platform for them, but also want to be that platform where they depend on us for other tools as well. So it's a constant challenge, but that's how we learn, by getting constant feedback from them. And with the right tools from our partner CleverTap and other tools as well, we ensure that we keep them engaged through technology.
Great. And let's talk a little bit more about that in the round robin question. But that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Great. Well, let me move on to our third panel member. So Matt Ward. He's the founder and the CEO of Workmate. Workmate, just to tell you a bit more, it's also a similar end-to-end blue-collar workforce management platform with a fully integrated network. So pre-vetted workers that they can supply to various industries, and I'll let Matt talk about that a bit more. They have offices in Singapore, Bangkok, and Jakarta. And I know Matt, that during the this year, during the COVID crisis, we know that e-commerce has obviously been one of the big benefactors. And your business works a lot with logistics in the logistics space, supporting e-commerce. So how is the e-commerce industry that you see faring during this period of COVID? What are you seeing there? Why don't we start there?
Okay, cool. So thanks, Russ. Thanks for having me on today. So, just to sort of reiterate what Russ said, what Workmate does is we help companies manage their blue collar workforce at scale. So it's an end-to-end platform that starts with helping companies source highly qualified, reliable workers, and then manages the entire process of making sure that schedules are set up correctly, shift scheduling, making sure people are showing up when they're supposed to, time tracking, workforce analytics, payment disbursements, and so forth. So as you said, Russ, we focus on the blue collar manpower sector. That's the sector that companies typically have more challenges with at scale. When you've got thousands of workers on your workforce that have a propensity to not show up, and no shows is a major problem for blue collar workers. It requires a hell of a lot of work, and so we support companies with technology to help them manage those workforce challenges. And as you say, one of our major customer segments is logistics and warehousing. Prior to COVID, we did a lot of work in F&B and events as well, like companies that have lots of kind of like workers across restaurant groups. Obviously, that took a massive hit, and all of our clients in the hospitality and events sector kind of dropped off. But we saw a massive surge in demand, obviously, from food delivery companies, e-commerce companies that need workers in the warehouse, picking and packing orders. And so for us, actually, we're pretty fortunate. I mean, our business is 300% up on where it was this time last year. And so we're actually growing pretty quickly. It's been pretty good for us because a lot of companies, particularly during the lockdowns, all of a sudden needed access to qualified manpower pretty quickly. They weren't able to have these big mass group interviews because they couldn't bring people together. So how do I find qualified people really quickly and get them deployed into my workforce? And so we were actually, fortunate enough to be able to support companies with that growth.
Right. So I guess that's, a good lead into the next question, to understand the labor market and how the labor market is getting disrupted. I mean, Sahib mentioned, a little bit about, how the hotel space obviously is getting hurt. So a lot of people are getting laid off. So looking at this in various different ways. I mean, there's the companies that are looking for ways to reduce staff, right, or improve productivity during this period, maybe decrease their staffing risks. And then also there's a lot more, let's say, supply in the workforce market. So sort of this shared workforce has been growing every year, and it's, only, I think, accelerated during this period. So are you seeing an acceleration in this during this COVID period, that there's more of an adoption for companies to have less liability, and there's more workers out there that can accelerate sort of this temporary shared working economy?
Yeah, so I think so, but I think as Sahib alluded to as well, one of the things that you learn in the emerging markets like Indonesia, Thailand, is that workers don't want temporary work. They don't want gigs. What they need is consistent, reliable income, right? And so I think the sense of like having temporary work, particularly during lockdown period where they were kind of desperate and they're quickly being made redundant, they needed to find work quickly. Offering temporary work is something that can give people short relief, but fundamentally they're going to leave that temporary work because they want a full-time job. Full-time work gives them more consistency and more security. And so I think what we kind of saw was a few things. I don't necessarily think it bred a shift to temporary work. I think companies started looking for more. They started to become more open to different ways of hiring rather than just hiring a full-time worker. I think a business who's always their whole life and they've run their business only hired people on a full-time employment contract started to think, okay, I've got to rethink this. Maybe there's a better way to staff my business, and give myself the ability to have flexibility to staff up and staff down when I need to. And so that I think helped sort of make these businesses kind of look for alternative solutions to just hiring people full-time. And on the worker side, I think as well, people became a little bit desperate for work. So they became more open to finding work through new types of platforms. Like prior to COVID, you might hear things like workers would say, I find work through, my neighborhood or through my contacts. And then post-COVID, with everyone kind of losing their jobs, a lot of people losing their jobs, they started to get a little bit more hungry to find new ways to look. And then they would discover our platform and find that as a way to be able to, get very quick access to income. So I think it definitely did sort of increase the awareness of these types of platforms in the market. But I still feel fundamentally, workers want full-time, reliable work. And so that's, I guess, one of the things that we'll have to wait and see whether things really shift long-term or not.
Right. So I guess that's sort of the last part of this then is around the technology, or digital tools, right? So we know that you have a platform. How are the, I guess, on the buy side, the company side, and then also on the staffing side. I mean, how are our companies adapting more quickly to use this technology, and our workers adapting more quickly to use this technology? I mean, how is this, it would seem to me like an opportunity as well for efficiencies and openness, like you said, to try new things. So I guess, tell us a little bit about the trend you see there, and are your tools having an uptick during this period?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as that's what I said, like the business is up 3x up on where it was this time last year. And I think a lot of that's been driven by, say, on the business side, which are our customers. They they seem to be a lot more open to new ways of doing things. I think, COVID sort of made everyone take a step back and go, we need to look at things differently, and be a lot more open to new ways of doing things rather than kind of just being in their comfort zone. It really forced people out of their comfort zone, and that kind of opened up opportunities for us to get in there and say, hey, there's a better way of managing this. On the worker side, I think as well, again, to Sahib's point around the workers in the blue collar space and their sort of willingness and ability to use apps. I think in this space you've got to keep it really simple. As Sahib said, one thing that we've learned as well is that a lot of the devices that these blue collar guys have are quite old. They might have smartphones. A lot of them have smartphones now versus 5-10 years ago it was feature phones. But a lot of the smartphones are quite sort of basic models, so they don't have a lot of memory space on them. So what we find is that if you don't offer value with your app to the worker, right, to the blue collar worker, which is, to be honest with you, 70% of the workforce in Southeast Asia. So for any marketer, that's a large market to approach, right? If you don't add very clear value very quickly to their lives, you get deleted. They'll remove the app from the phone. It's not like, I've got hundreds of apps that I haven't used for a while, but it's still there, right, on my phone. They uninstall quite quickly. They uninstall at quite a high rate if you're not offering value. And so I think that's one thing that's slightly different with that part of the audience. But they're willing to try new things, willing to look at new things, but if they don't see immediate return, they'll kick you to the curb pretty quickly.
Awesome. And that's a great lead into the sort of the next round robin question. So thanks so much, Matt, for sharing that. So what I want to do now is I just, what you said there, Matt, is if you're not providing value to the end user, they're going to delete you pretty quickly. So the next topic is around retention. And we know retention is key to business success. So you all have apps, all your businesses, there's an app involved in it as the consumer tool or the business tool. So what I'd love to understand is, what are some of the things that you're doing to retain customers? And obviously the app is going to be a part of that. So, you can talk, in particular to how you're communicating to them via the app or other things, because it may not be more than that, but just retention in general. So I'm going to start with you, Sid. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about, on your side with your mass consumer business, what are some of the things that you're doing to retain customers?
Hey, sorry, was on mute.
Oh, yeah.
So I said,
Yeah.
can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I heard some interesting insights from the rest of the guys as well. So about coming to retention, in Hungry Hub in general, what we have been good at from day one was providing interesting product or like good deals basically to customer. So reaching out to them and letting them know. In the past, we used to do a lot of mass campaigns, right? So we used to do like email blast to everyone about everything. So I think in the COVID period, we had more time to look at like services or things that we can improve. And one of the things that we're going to focus on, or have started focusing on, is more personalized messages to or experience, whether it's the app or whether it's the communication that we generate to them, right? So having more personalized experience rather than a broad push message or a broad email that doesn't apply to everyone.
You give an
Sending
example
at the right time, creating more yeah. So for example, people who like a restaurant segment, let's say a restaurant within a certain price tier, we send to people who have booked or used our services within those price range. For example, that's one kind. Or like a competitor, let's say a brand is joining. We looked at like 4 or 5 competitors, and we people who have used the services at those competing restaurants, then we send them to those specific higher engagement, so the customer feel like whatever's coming to them is more relevant rather than just
price,
like a blast, like a so we feel like we don't want to communicate too much to each person, so we want to communicate better quality stuff, so they wait and look forward to our messages because it's personalized to them. So I think another thing that we're using more is the journey. So like the CleverTap journey is something that we to reduce like drop-off rates, reminders, making sure that they don't forget that they are trying to book something but they don't complete the booking, or even like adding certain things like favorites, for example. So we try to create multiple ways to reduce drop-off, not only like forcing them to book, because not every time people are going to come back to book, but then putting it as a favorite first, like basically putting it into wish list so you won't forget, and then the next time show up the wish list first when they open the app, so it's a higher conversion as a tool. So different things that we are doing that are trying to make it different customers to have more of a personalized experience when they open the app. I think that's what's helping our retention. We can see it growing quite a bit.
Got it. So personalization. So my takeaway is personalization, and then also trying to identify specific segments that may be at risk, change in behavior. Got it. I imagine there's also a great opportunity, because you have a strong restaurant base is where you started, but there's so many occasions around restaurants. So whether it's Mother's Day, or I remember one of my favorite ones that I got from you was the 10 places to take your date on Valentine's Day, which is great because guys are always looking at the last second for a place to go on Valentine's Day. So imagine doing things like that as well, and the creativity side of it, and understanding where the consumer is at in their life as well is quite important. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean things like that we slowly adopt, and that's more occasional, which we were doing. That would be broad, because I think Valentine's applies to almost everyone to some capacity, and people are willing to spend more anyway. But I guess what I was trying to focus more on is personalization, which is something that we recently added on.
So it could be, hey Russ, remember to take your wife Tara to Valentine's Day. We know you love steakhouses. Here's 3 steakhouses for you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hopefully that's next year.
Okay, that's next year. All right, I'll wait for that. Awesome. Cool. Then Sahib, let's, retention, and I guess it's on both sides of the equation, right? Maybe we can look at it from the consumer side on your B2C business, the homeowners and people that are obviously trying to manage their lives every single day throughout the year. What are some of the things that you've done on that side to retain these and drive more usage?
Yeah, so I think for us it's also very similar, but for us, because the frequency of some services could be very less compared to the other services. So for instance, like if you come in for a house cleaner the first time, there's a good chance that you will come back within the next week or next few days. But if you come in for aircon cleaning today, you perhaps won't come in until the next 3 or 4 months. So because we have a wide range of services in terms of quantity of services, verticals that we provide, I think for us, it's a mix. It's the right balance between the cross-sell and the upsell as well, right? I mean, because naturally, once we know that you've hit us the second time for cleaning, then we upsell you to buying a package with us, a subscription package with us. Or it could be the same thing that you are doing an aircon cleaning today, and we would like you to try out our house cleaning. But fundamentally, I think it's a lot to do with the journey and kind of automating a lot of that process, because, I think just if you look at it today, logically speaking, you need to clean your aircon at least every quarter, or I would say in the worst case by so every semi-annually. So how do we actually engage these customers to tell you that, hey, it's been 176 days since you've cleaned your aircon last. It must be musty, stinky, or it needs a clean. So book now for your next clean.
Right.
So I think it's a balance between what Sid just mentioned just now, is about identifying those journeys, making sure that they're there, and also personalizing them. One thing that CleverTap has helped a lot is actually that customer segmentation, based on the frequency of how much they engage with our platforms. So I think that helped a lot, because I've been looking at the stats before email, before we used to send EDMs, and then using the EDMs through the customer segmentation through CleverTap, I would say there was a clear jump by almost 2 or 3x, with the open rate at least. So it's these kind of tools that actually have helped us keeping that process automated.
Got it. And I imagine that's great to hear. And I can imagine that, in your business, there's so much more that you could offer to the owner in terms of services. I mean, just thinking about, myself and obviously there's cleaning and air conditioning, but, it's really understanding more about their needs. And that's the way that you can drive more occasions and retention for different services. Is that something that you're looking at as well?
Yeah, so I mean, we also do constant feedback sessions or customer insights that we constantly try to dig in on, perhaps where we could better our quality of services or even our range of services.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff like ironing, for instance, or laundry, or I mean, the fun, interesting fact right now is that a lot of people are actually they just want bathroom cleaning. Like, they're just sick and tired of just focusing on getting their bathrooms clean. And we've never actually thought about having a package for a subscription for just bathroom cleaning. But our data tells us that our top paying customers actually want us to launch a bathroom cleaning. Or for example, another insight is, we bundle our package of laundry based on number of pieces. So the number of clothes that you send. But the customer insights I've been collecting recently say, I mean, post-COVID, they're like, hey, we would like to send laundry based on the kilos of clothing that we have.
Right.
So this allows us and forces us to actually adjust and make those necessary changes within our product constantly as well. So I think this is another way we use the tools and make sure that we're always constantly innovating our offering and services.
Sure, that makes sense, because retention it's about offering the right thing in a personalized way, but also making sure that what you're given is good. That's kind of like the basics. You got to get that right. So that makes sense. Great. Thanks for sharing that. So Matt, just going to kick this over to you, and in retention. Maybe we can look at it from the aspect of the worker, because I think that's more.
Yeah.
More one of your challenges. It's like, this massive workforce, how do you keep them engaged in the platform?
Yeah, look, I think it's the same kind of message, right? It's personalization and relevance. I think, everyone is whether, whatever product you're offering, whatever service you're offering, people have short attention spans. There's lots of competitive offerings out there. So if you're not working hard to make sure that what you're delivering is relevant and personalized, you lose them, right? And it's the same for us. So we do a lot of work on, on the behavioral data of the worker. So for example, they're obviously they're receiving their shift schedules, they're clocking in and clocking out every day on our platform. So we know who's turning up on time, who's turning up late, who's not showing up at all. We know if somebody has confirmed their shifts or hasn't even opened their shift confirmation message yet. And then that will trigger certain activities, right? But the most important thing we find for retention is just the relevance. So what we do with behavioral data is we look, for example, where if we send a particular worker to a job in a particular area, say a picker and packer in a warehouse in Samut Prakan, right? And whenever they go to those jobs in those areas, they're consistently late, or they often cancel their shifts 15 to 20% of the time. But when you send them to a kitchen cleaning job in central Bangkok, they're always on time and they always get good ratings. So we learn like the types of jobs that are best suited for people, and then we end up assigning them to jobs that they have a higher propensity to perform well. But from the worker side, what it means is that the job offers that they're getting on our app, they're all really relevant. So they're not scrolling through the job offers, which are kind of like, nah, I don't want to do that, don't want to do that. So when they open up our platform, they see, here's 5 offers today, and they all look great. And when they do that, you get a lot more engagement. I think again, it comes with that personalization. When they open the app, you got to quickly show them this is actually tailored for you and customized for you. And that's what we really focus on. And then of course, on the retention side, very similar kind of strategies to the other guys is like, the worker hasn't engaged for a period of time in a certain way, and we can trigger a notification or a message through our messaging platform to try to entice them back in, right? So it's very similar kind of stuff.
Yep. Cool. So I'm just going to stick with you, Matt, on this to go into sort of our last question for the day. Just looking into the future a little bit. Let's think about 2021. I mean, guys, this year's almost over, thank God. But hopefully things will start to get more back to normal next year as we come out of this pandemic. But we're going to be in a new normal. For your space where you are, what do you see as the trends that are going to carry us into 2021? I mean, how do you see, I guess, sort of this larger, and maybe the context of sort of the larger, temporary workforce, or not even, maybe it's moving more temporary towards sort of fixed workforce, but through an agency like what you guys are doing. I mean, what are you seeing as sort of the trends in this space, that's from the workforce space, and how technology is going to help with that?
Yeah, I think most importantly, people, businesses, they learned the hard way, the cost of not having flexibility, right? And so when they were hit kind of out of the blue with adversity, they didn't really have the ability to adapt very quickly. And so I think that businesses realize the value of flexibility, and they're looking for tools that give them some flexibility. So that I think, particularly, before we have a kind of vaccine, there could be another outbreak and another lockdown could happen at any time. You see what's happened in the UK, they've gone into a second lockdown, right? And across a lot of countries in Europe. So what we're kind of seeing is people a little bit risk averse, but they're also trying to kind of like reopen their businesses, but with caution, because they are cautious that what if another outbreak happens and there's another lockdown? I don't want to go back through this whole thing again. So I think businesses are looking for ways to reopen because of the uncertainty. They have to get moving, right? They have to earn money, but they're looking for ways to do it that will give them flexibility, so that if there's another outbreak, they don't have to go through the pain again. And so I think that means that people are open to new ideas, and they're open to different technologies, but you also have to clearly demonstrate how your technology will help them in those types of scenarios, not be another additional burden or additional cost to their business.
So what I'm hearing is that the workforce, it's really been disrupted, and the normal may be, sort of this continual temporary work environment. There's work agreement between the worker and the company, that this is really an acceleration, because you're right. I mean, I think the companies want to reduce their risk. And there's, from the worker side, I mean, there may not be full-time jobs, but maybe if they can patch it together with various part-time jobs. I even think about in the ad industry where I am. I mean, this, with the rise of Upwork and all of these platforms as well. I mean, this has surely accelerated that. I mean, Sahib, I'll just turn this over to you. So do you see sort of the same trend? I mean, do you see this, like the new normal inside of, let's say, the work environment is more and more individuals working in sort of freelance? Is this something that you see would continue?
Yeah, I think very similar to Matt as well. We already seeing the shift in trend as well. I think from the consumer and business point of view, a lot of people a lot of them are now open to switching from fixed cost to variable cost. They want to be able to, they appreciate the ideas and different services and offerings that avoids them, or reduces the risk of actually hosting payroll liabilities, right?
Right.
So a lot of people are actually, due to the fear of, let's say, the second lockdown or not, or whether there's another pandemic that hits us in 2021, and let's hope not.
Yeah.
The question is, how can I keep my risk minimal, and how can I keep my overheads minimal? So as long as they can have someone else taking up this burden, and also seeing that they're still getting their job done, but paying on a more variable method is what
Yeah.
they're looking for. And I think they also understand that there's a premium to this, but at least they don't bear the risk, right? I
Yeah.
think for the
Right.
workforce side of things, again, back to what Matt said, there is a balance between where people want consistency,
Mm.
and be sure that they have an X amount of money, or baht, that hits their bank account at the end of every day, so that they
Right.
can go back and sleep peacefully, rather than
Right.
trying to hunt for the next job. So it's really about how platforms like Workmate and Seekster can ensure that these blue collar, or even the pink collar, can constantly, at least guarantee them to the opportunities of accepting jobs.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think us as a platform, we cannot guarantee them jobs.
Mm.
At least the opportunities of accepting those jobs, because
Mm.
at the end of the day, I mean, it's on them on how hardworking or flexible they would like to be. It's a choice we give them.
Right.
But that's
And
how we look at things as well.
yeah, and then they may not have a choice. So it's great that there's platforms like what the two of you have. And I wish hopefully more and more workers can go on and check it out. Because I think both these platforms, it seems like a trend that's going to continue. So I foresee good things for you guys, I hope. Sid, let me just close this out with you then. Like, what is your crystal ball see next year? Is Thailand going to come back? Are they going to hopefully things are going to open up? Let me see your prediction of June 2021. Is the tourism back? Is everything sort of back to normal? Or what do you see it looking like?
No, from what I'm hearing, I'm talking to hotels on a daily
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah.
Everyone's predicting Q4 of next year. I mean, it's gonna start opening up. I'm not saying June is not gonna be open at all. I think there's gonna be like lesser quarantine, but if you're talking about like mass tourism, then it's not gonna happen until at least Q3 or Q4 next year, and then that too. I think next high season, or what you call high season, which is the year and last 2-3 months, it's gonna be 20-30% of normal high season in the first year, and then slowly
Even
pick up.
next year.
Yeah, so it's gonna be into 2022 before like it hits like 70-80% of normal. For again, this is for hotel or mass tourism, but for restaurants, I mean, luckily that majority of restaurants in Thailand still depend on locals as a key driver, or depend on a certain level. So they might have tourists for like 10-20%. So that gap can be replaced or filled up. And I think it's about how innovative or how fast to react you are. Because if not, then you probably end up dying.
You got to serve the local market. Yeah, you got to serve the local market. So it's staycation. So there'll be a lot more staycations in my future, is what you
Yeah, I mean, once people experience it, it's something that people never experienced it before. And once you've done it once, you might say that, hey, maybe anniversary, for example, I don't have to go out of town. It's a one day. Instead of going out for restaurant dinner, we can do a staycation at about the same price.
Spare a thought for us, those of us in Singapore, where we have nowhere else to go. At least you guys can go to like Phuket or something,
Oh, sorry, man.
We have nowhere to go.
My friend in Singapore got his boat license just in case he got too crazy. Kevin Foy got a boat license, so if he loses it, he can flee. But so far, so good.
I mean, you can cross over to Sentosa Island, is what I heard. I'm just joking. I used to live in Singapore, so it is nothing for the.
Oh man! All right. Well, I just want to commend all you guys for trying your best to adapt, and you guys are really showing leadership, and particularly in the worker space. Great to hear what you guys are doing to help put people back to work. So that's very commendable. I think at this point, Ketan, I think we're kind of at our time. Just throw it if there's any questions. I don't know if anyone wants to ask a question, they can type it into the message box. in our few minutes that we have remaining.
Yeah, so Russell,
Otherwise,
there were a couple of questions, and
okay,
most of them were covered, but I'm just going to read them. So please
okay,
take
sure.
over. The first question that came in was for Matt. The
Mhm.
question is which channels of engagement work best for your business?
Is this for the
Yeah,
work or the, I'm trying to think, for the worker or for the company?
Yeah, this
yeah.
is for the
So
organization, I assume.
sorry for the
For you as a whole, right? For both
yeah.
channels.
Maybe look at it from both sides, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, I mean, in terms of like how we communicate with the workforce, I mean, the primary way we do it is obviously through the app. We have chat in the app, we have notifications in the app, which works quite well. But if we don't get engagement or responses from that, we do trigger an SMS like as a way, like just to sort of see if the guy, is not receiving the message or not receiving the notification because he's uninstalled us. So those ones work quite well. For us. I mean, it has taken a bit of training of the worker behavior over time, but they kind of, we've got much better now at onboarding workers to understand how the platform works. So that's the main one on the work side,
Yeah.
on the platform side.
Got it. Great. Ketan, anything else?
Okay. Uh, I know we're over. Just one more question. We'll take that and
Sure.
we can call it.
Yeah, great.
So this one's for Sid. The
Mhm.
question is, what do you anticipate any changes in engagement tactics going into 2021?
So engagement tactics is a question, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Personally, I think, uh, like I said in the beginning, that we started, but we haven't fully adopted personalization. But I think if you see big players like Lazada and Shopee, every customer that opens the app see different things on that platform, right? But that is like with the AI and everything that comes in, it's not as easy in the past for smaller startups to adopt those kinds of technology or to have the manpower to create that kind of personalization on the app. So I think given the new features that CleverTap is launching as well, I think that's something that a lot of startups or even other tools. But what I really see is using AI to predict what people are looking for based on similar people patterns would be, I think, the way forward for smaller startups, right? So that's one thing that I would say would help increase engagement and relevance for companies, especially with marketplaces.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
Amazon built, let's say the first recommendation engine, the best recommendation engine, but now with the technology out there today, it's available for even startups to have that power using tools like CleverTap. Great. All right. Thanks for sharing that. So, Ketan, I think that brings us to the very end.
Yes.
So let me just close out and thank you guys all for joining. Matt, Sahib, and Sid, thank you guys so much. And Ketan, thank you for organizing. Yeah, it's been great. And we have the recording. So Ketan, let's get the recording, send it over to me, and I'll get it out. We can get it out to everyone else, and they can view it. Lovely. Well, thank you all very much, and for the ties, Cup and Cup, and everyone else that joined in, maybe outside. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next round of this education series. Thanks again.
Everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.